Do you believe in giants? Yep, I thought so. And thumbs, do you believe in those? What is he babbling on about? I hear you screaming at your devices. We are here today in the beautiful Penrith, once possibly a southern capital of the Kingdom of Strathclyde, keeping a watchful eye on the Irish Norse to the south. We are here today to look at an extraordinary, and don't you just hate it when people say it like that, grave, a giant's grave and a giant's thumb, beloved of people like Daniel Defoe and Sir Walter Scott. And we're going to be looking at the origin tales that surround it. Tales of a giant's thumb and tales of a giant's grave. Tales of lost Roman nobles. Tales of the son of the king of the ancient kingdom of Reged. And tales from a massive Cumbrian king from the 900s. The grave was opened, his huge skeleton was discovered, massive thigh bones, and an absolutely ginormous sword. Now, Giant's Grave and Giant's Thumb is here at the Church of St Andrew in the centre of Penrith. What we do first of all is we'll go into the churchyard, look at the thumb and the grave, do a sort of a recce of it all, and then we'll start getting into the fables and lore that surround it, and then perhaps a little bit of citizen science. If you come in via this gate by the NatWest Bank, that delivers you to the Giant's Thumb, although that might well be a coffee shop by the time you get here. There we have it then. This is known locally as the Giant's Thumb. It's rather splendid, isn't it? I must get my mark so you can see it. You can pretty tell it's a fairly classic sort of Anglo-Norse style cross. These were prevalent, particularly in the north and the west, 8th, 9th and 10th century. Now, one thing to note here is this is the antiquity, this bit here. Down here, it is now mounted on a base that is dated 1887. And a quick hello to Colin, who I just met. You know, it's funny, when I started this Anglo-Saxon Crosses video series, I felt that I needed a celebrity, didn't I, to endorse it. But now, I'm the celebrity. Hello, Colin. Thanks for supporting the channel. But enough about me. We're here to talk about the crosses, and the Giant's Thumb is a great example. Unfortunately, the weather has got to it, and there's very little sign now of the elegant tracery and scrolls that once covered it. There was, in the past, a visible figure. I think that was on this side, a Christ probably, or maybe a Loki. The crosshead on the top, you can see, is sort of damaged, but some of it remains, and very classic sort of Anglo-Norse style crosshead. Now, I've just remembered I'm meant to be doing an unbiased sort of recce of these at the moment, so I shouldn't be saying things like Anglo-Norse, should I? Because that may be seen as prejudiced against the mumbo-jumbo. The main event is over here, the Giant's Grave. And what a giant's grave it is. Look at the size of it. Two colossal crosses at each end, 10 to 11 feet there, befitting a giant, and the grave part is marked by these hogback stones. Again, I shouldn't prejudice this really, I suppose, by calling these hogback stones, but it's classic stuff here. You can see the dimples of the roof. These were back in the sort of Scandinavian tradition. The idea of these was that they represented the house of the dead. Now, this one does have some quite nice scroll work still visible on it, but also take a note for the moment of these straps of iron, and there are various straps of iron around the monument as we look around. And then the other thing to note is these very regular stone blocks. This runs down both sides of the tomb with the hogbacks, we'll use that term for now, sat on top of them. Now, other things to note, that both the crosses once had, again, magnificent scroll work, tracery, vine work on them, but they are sadly extremely badly weathered nowadays. If you look at the base of the two crosses, the Western Cross has a very distinct base that is different from the Eastern Cross. I think it's worth just comparing the two crosses at each end. There are similarities. They both have this sort of cylindrical main body that then tapers off to where the crosses would have been. The crosses are gone. But I would have to say, I think this eastern one feels just a little bit punier by comparison. There you go then, that's the giant's thumb and the giant's grave. I know that you are gagging to hear the stories about these things, so I'm going to go and find somewhere where I can tell you those. This, incidentally, is something to do with the Cecil to Carlisle railway line. I don't really know what. As you know, we don't really do that sort of thing here. I may have let a little bit of rationality slip into that, but I think I got away with it. Anyhow, it's the time that the folklorists are going to love. We're going to look at the various tales that have attached themselves to this monument over the centuries. The earliest tale, in terms of going back in timeline, comes from a history of Penrith in the 1890s. And in that, they proposed that this impressive grave marked the burial place of an important Romano-British noble from around about the time that the Romans were leaving and evacuating the nearby forts in the area. That idea seems to be based on their interpretation of the carvings having a sort of Roman tracery, runic type appearance. Presumably dating then to the 400s. Our next tale, we're jumping forward to 550 to 590. And that's the idea that the grave marks the burial of this chap here, Owen, who was the son of the King of Reged during that period. Now, this is a really muddled tale that comes to us from, you guessed it, an antiquarian. He told a school teacher in the 1590s, and it's really confusing. Owen is a sort of a slayer of monsters and dragons and the likes, and there's something or other about him living in a cave as well. But that's story number 2. Our final tale then is the most popular, and it's another Owain. He had many names, in fact. I'll try and display some of them if I can on the screen, like modern day impatient TV credits. An early 10th century king of Strathclyde, also known as the Kingdom of Cumbria. A giant of a man, and although we don't know anything about his thumb, we do have these dates. 920, meeting with King Edward of England. 927, the Maberhenge Assembly with Athelstan just outside Penrith. 934, appears to be submitting to Athelstan at his court. But then by 937, he may be the Cumbrian king, unnamed, opposing Athelstan at the Battle of Brunanburh, and we won't be opening that worm of tins today. May have died here to be replaced by his son, unhelpfully another Owen. If this is his grave and his thumb, those are the dates we need then. Early 10th century, 920 to 937. And he was well known for his hunting. The 4 hogback stones are supposed to represent wild boar that he killed at the interestingly named Forest of Inglewood. Would you believe it? Just about as I was to film the next sequence, I was spotted again. Hello there, Dougie. Interestingly, I actually met Dougie a couple of years ago, before I was famous. I don't know how Tweedy Pubs does it, you know. It was quite hard filming that last sequence at Daffodil's Coffee House. Everybody is so nice, they want to have a chat. Goodness knows why I ever felt I needed celebrity endorsement to make this channel a success. Anyhow, they are lovely stories, aren't they? And particularly because Penrith is today the home for an effort to seek recognition for Indigenous British Celts. So it seems quite appropriate that this could be the grave of a 10th century Cumbrian king. But on this channel, as you know, we do need to talk facts. Fact number 1 then, we know that the adjacent church was rebuilt between 1720 to 1722, and the church wardens set about demolishing the giant's grave at that time. There was an uproar about that, and the grave was restored, and thus the iron bars that we saw setting right some of the damage that had been caused during that process. In 1907, George Watson proved that it is only this, the Western Cross, that remains in its original position. The Eastern Cross has been moved, and he found willow patterns some 5 feet or so underneath that. Now, we can try and do a comparison on the screen here. If we look at Dugdale's picture, which is about 55 years prior to the rebuild of the church, you can see how the grave has been moved. In terms of dating, I am going to defer to a real antiquarian hero of mine, Collingwood. He knew his stuff when it came to Anglian crosses. So in a typically naff YouTube attention span way, I'll walk you through the dates. Collingwood has the giant's thumb as the oldest, 920. Right, I'll go quick to make this palatable for YouTube. So Western Cross 950, as are the 2 Eastern hogbacks. The next hogback is this one, so it is after 950, but it is older than that one, which is also known as the Serpent Stone. That's the youngest of the hogback stones, but it's pre-1000. The newest recruit is the Eastern one, the Eastern Cross, which dates to 1000. YouTube-friendly dates then, and other sources such as Historic England and Pesner are agreed the various components of the giant's grave dating from the mid to the late 10th century. Not a Roman noble then, not the son of the King of Reged, but we do have here what are obviously 6 separate monuments, but they all do date to the 10th century. So we are sort of in the time of King Owen of Cumbria. I don't think they are his grave. They weren't all together in that way originally, but let's not forget how expensive these things were to make. These are the gravestones of important and wealthy people. Some may have even known Owen in his lifetime. Did they die in the legendary Battle of Dunmail Raise of 945, or is that mythical? Are the Anglian crosses actually gravestones at all? They could have originally been route markers or meeting places for sermons, as was often the case. When were these stones moved together into this extraordinary arrangement? We know they were like that in the 1590s when that antiquarian was babbling crap. The earliest surviving fabric of the church today is 12th century. Perhaps that's when the 4 hogbacks and the Eastern Cross were moved over to the Western and a local myth was born. You won't believe this, I've been recognised yet again today. This is Olivia. Do you watch me on YouTube?
Yes.
And do you like my channel?
Yes.
Well, it was nice to be recognised. You make an old man feel worthwhile, Olivia. Thanks for coming over and introducing yourself. I have no idea how the thumb ended up with that name. Prior to its re-erection in 1887, it had enjoyed a period as a whipping post for miscreants. It's popular on social media to call for the return of such practices. So in line with the celebrity flavour of this video, I'll leave it up to you to decide who's up for a flogging. By the early 10th century, Anglian churches and monasteries had pretty much fallen away in this area. And I think we can see that the population centre has moved from Dacre to Penrith. So the investment in these really expensive gravestones show us what an important area this was at that time. That is up until the year 1000, when Ethelred the Unready, although it appears he wasn't unready on this occasion, ravaged Cumbria, well nigh all. And interestingly, whether he came in from the Lancaster direction or from the York direction, Penrith would have been the first thing that he encountered on his campaign. I suspect he did absolutely blitz it and ravage it, and that will explain why we don't see any monuments like this appearing any time through the 11th century. And if you're ever in the area, do check Penrith out. It is one of my favourite towns, not least of all because it has Arnesons, a traditional gents outfitters that has been going since the early 18th century. Well worth a visit. I had planned to pop in and refresh my Tweed, but it was closed by the time I'd finished. I have a subscriber in there too, you know, but my celebrity ego is now so massive, I always confuse his YouTube handle and his real name. Thanks to our growing band of members, and to find out more on the perks, check the link in the description below. At the very least, please subscribe. I am a celebrity now. I may not need Philip Schofield, but I do admit that the endings do sometimes go a little bit awry. So I asked Olivia to help with that. So I'll see you next week. Olivia?
Hi guys, make sure you like and subscribe. Here's my dog Benji and have a lovely day.